Hello and welcome back to Under the Moons. Today I thought I'd try something slightly different, harkening back to a previous episode where I break down an effect from the most recent episode. And today I thought some people might be interested to see how I did the lower third for the Outcast Egg Hunt episode. There is actually quite a bit going on, but because it's so small in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you don't really see all of it. So I thought, why not go through it and break down? So here's the finished piece where we have the Easter egg title and then the location of where you can find it. So we can see there's like a reflection on the egg here and everything, and there's even some rippling going on. And there's a few more objects that move around and sway, which I thought was quite nice, gives a bit of weight to it. We've also got a little active Daoka as well. So let's hop into the program I use for my motion graphics, and I don't actually use After Effects like I probably should be. I actually use Motion, which is Apple's animation software. So the egg here, and you can see the reflection of the palm tree there and the words coming in. It's actually not rendering in real time. This is actually a cheeky little clone layer of these things. So for instance, over here, I've got the text, Easter eggs, and location. So if I cancel one, you'll notice that it disappears in the egg as well. So what's happening there? Well, we have this little subfolder here called text, and if you go down a few, we've got text reflection. I created this group so I could just shove everything in one layer to deal with this. So this is actually a clone layer of the text group. So whatever happens in the text group will happen in the clone layer, but you can add additional things onto the clone layer, so it'll act differently. So first off, let's take away some of the effects I've added onto the layer, which is a Gaussian blur and a distortion filter called Sphere. Right, now you can start to see what's going on here. Another thing I did, I changed the color of it to match like what you would see in a golden egg reflection. So you can see it's white and a bit faded and whatnot. So pretty much all that's happening, let's do a quick render. And you can see when the words come out, they now just appear on the left-hand side of the screen. A lot less interesting, that's for sure. So the effect that really sells this is the sphere distortion. So let's click on that. And you'll see it, there we go, it kind of bends around, and that looks pretty crap, so that's why we added the Gaussian blur, to give it a little bit of realistic blurriness that comes to a reflection of a typical golden egg, you know the ones. So if we go into the sphere tool, you can actually kind of see how it works. This is the main point that the sphere tool revolves around. This is great for if you have a map of the world, you can plop this distort effect onto it, and boom, you've got like a 3D moving texture of the world. It's really helpful for quite low-end effects, not having to get into 3D modeling and whatnot. So let's apply the Gaussian blur back, and of course colorize to make it back into that golden shade. And there we go. And we've got a nice reflection. It does feel like the effect is ruined a little bit now because I've explained it, but I still think it looks pretty good. Now we can see the palm tree in the back is also kind of having a reflection, and that's pretty much the exact same effect. To get the palm trees wobbling along with the leaves here, and there's a tree back there. When it comes up, we've got this kind of weight. So this is pretty much a puppet warp tool. This was an add-on to Motion, as it doesn't have this as an option if you just buy the program straight up. So let's have a quick look into that. And let's do it with the front plant, I've called it. Now you can see every single point I put on these leaves. There's quite a few going on here to convey the bounciness that is the weight of the lower third. And down here in the timeline for the keyframes, you can see each individual time that I've had to plonk one down. It's interesting looking back, you kind of get these beautiful patterns of colours. So it's pretty simple, you just kind of, there's no way to simulate the bounciness on, without you having to do it one by one. But once you've been doing motion graphics for a while, you kind of get the idea of weight and whatnot and how you want to convey it over time. So yeah, it's been pretty interesting. And the same effect is working on the palm trees at the back and front. Bonk. The other thing you'll notice that, again, it's so minuscule in the final thing you'll never notice it, but we do have a little bit of rippling going on in the water to kind of give a nice little live effect. It's really hard to see, especially with this rendering. But that was a nice simple effect. Where we can go to Riff of Water, which I've named this layer, and go underwater. It pretty much just does that. You can change the size of it, bump up the speed and the refraction. And there we go. Oh, it's beautiful. Even better. It is crazy to think what kind of effects you can do so easily these days. But it just brings something to life. Just a little bit. I love it. Okay, last thing we'll talk about is the Daoka, which completely activates, and we've got a nice particle effect coming through. Now, this is quite interesting. A lot of things that people probably don't know about is when you're putting together a visual effects shot, it's quite common to just shove a load of things you've done in several other places together. So you might create layers, or cut layers down from an image in Photoshop and bring them into another program and then animate them. Interestingly, there's not really a good particle system in Motion that can do this kind of effect. So I actually jumped into After Effects and created this kind of blue spitting stuff. Yeah. It's quite simple with their particle program. You kind of just play around and you get it. And yeah, brought it into Motion and added in a little glint effect. So that's what it looks like normally. It looks like grain almost, blue grain. I then put this glint effect on it and it gives this really nice glow to it, which is quite similar to the one we can actually find in Outcast when we have characters go through the Dokas. And lastly, the Doka itself, well, yes, we've got another use of the ripple effect here, the underwater ripple effect, which I'm just applying onto it to give it kind of that movement. But if we watch it a little bit, you'll see the effect is actually not rippling here. This is actually straight from the game. And I guess that's the secret of this Doka, is it's not actually from a still image, it's just straight from the game. You will notice that the grass at the bottom of the Doka is actually moving. So even this leaf here that's kind of not been cut out too well. So let's take a look at what this shot looked like without me messing around with it. Let's go down to one of my layers on the side here. And we've got a mask on this. And let's take away that mask. Oh, there's Cutter. Hello. So there we are. That's pretty much take away the crop. And yeah, that was the original image. And I kind of just sort of sat there in the game, recorded it, and let it play out. And yeah, just pretty much put a mask on it. And fits in perfectly. You wouldn't know it's there. Now, before we wrap this up, I may as well show you where this egg came from. Well, to do that, we're going to switch programs and go into Blender. So here's the quick project I put together. It's a quick, basic, easy model. There's not a lot going on there. It was pretty much a sphere that I then just stretched out its y-axis. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Nice and simple. I'm not using the full render result because there's nothing there. But if we go to the one down, one below, it actually just applies its own quick texture. And I thought, you know what, that kind of looks similar to the palm trees that you can find in Shamazar. So you know what, let's just take a print screen and go with it. So I just, I screenshot this image, shoved it into Photoshop, cut out the edges, and shoved it into Motion. And that was it. And with the reflection of the palm tree and the words, it kind of gives it a little bit of, well, it just makes it feel like it's placed in the shot. The little bounce makes it feel like it's a heavy object, which is what we want to convey. So yeah. So I hope you've enjoyed this little look in the behind the scenes of how I'd create a lower third like this. I had a lot of fun creating it, and time-wise it takes a couple of hours to do. You first got to think of the idea and create what the image is, and then have a little play around until you're happy with the final product. And in the case of this one, I was really happy. But yeah, anyway, there we go. Thanks for watching. If I ever get around to doing a Patreon, this is the kind of content you can expect that will follow an episode that has an effect that I've done and enjoyed. But whether or not you guys are enjoying this content, well, I won't know unless you let me know. So yeah, let me know, comment, like, and well, I'll see you next time under the moons. See you later.